I picked my best 21 crafts from 2021 so you can get super inspired for home decor DIYs in 2022. We've got high-end Dollar Tree DIYs, dupes of expensive decor, and lots of thrift flips. I'll have all the tutorials bookmarked in the description box below, along with any printables and supplies used. Okay, my friends, I know you're going to love these and I can't wait to share them with you. So let's get crafting on our first DIY. I love finding creative ways to use that Dollar Tree foam core. So we will be cutting out a few pieces here of this foam core and we're going to use it as the base for our basket. I hot glued these pieces together, and don't worry about the sides because we will be wrapping this all with a Dollar Tree hula skirt. I just wrapped in sections and hot glued the hula skirt in place, not worrying too much about what the back looks like since it will be totally hidden once we hang it on the door. I added a little piece of foam on the inside to help keep all the florals in place. I just used what I had, a few feathers that I found on Amazon, and some florals from Michael's and Dollar Tree. For all my new artsy friends here, thank you so much for subscribing and becoming part of this positive and creative community. My name is Maria, and I share crafts and creativity with you so that you can create a beautiful home. I do home decor videos like dupes of expensive items, budget-friendly DIYs, and inspiration that changes with the seasons. That way you can always keep your home decor fresh and on trend. Sometimes I will have a bonus video during the week, especially if I'm doing a collab. So in addition to subscribing, make sure to hit that notification bell, and then that way you won't miss out on any bonus videos that I put up. Then I attached a burlap ribbon. I did get that ribbon at Dollar Tree. I think this came out so full and beautiful. Here are all of the items that we used in the final price. Next, we're going to make a set of topiaries that will look great on the front porch. I was excited to find these large plastic pots at Dollar Tree with a nice pattern on them. I also found this wrapping paper at Dollar Tree, but I am going for what's in the center on these. This sturdy tube will be perfect for our topiaries. I wrapped some twine around the part that would show. This is going to be above the top of the pot. I cut some foam core out and gave it a rough coat of green paint. And then I placed some Dollar Tree moss right on top with a little hot glue. I created a couple of bows that will dress up these topiaries. I did find this ribbon at Dollar Tree. Okay, now for the messy part. I blew up a balloon. Well, actually I blew up two and I made sure they were similar in size. And then I took some twine and glue and wrapped it around the balloon. I used an indoor-outdoor waterproof glue, and I got my fingers wet with the glue and kind of smeared it on the twine before I wrapped it around the balloon. I worked in sections. I just kept going until I was happy with the amount of twine that I had wrapped. After letting these dry overnight, I pushed the balloon in to loosen and detach it a bit from any stuck on pieces of twine. This is very important because if you just pop the balloon and it's stuck, it could pull in the hardened twine sections and you would lose that circular shape if it was stuck on there really good. So make sure to loosen it up really well before you pop the balloon. I know it's exciting, you want to get to the popping the balloon part, but just do this part first so you don't mess it all up. There were some pieces of glue stuck on the edges, so I went around and peeled those or cut those off just to give it a clean look. I decided to add a little edging to the top of the painted pot, and then I assembled everything together. I did put a few rocks in the bottom of these pots since they'll be outside. I wanted to make sure they didn't blow away or tip over. I think these would look great on the porch, but they would also look good inside too. Maybe around the fireplace or at the base of your stairs. I went to my local thrift store. I found this kind of awkward looking basket. It's just super tall and skinny, and it had a random black feather inside. It was only $3 and felt I could turn this into something really beautiful. Now, if you can't find a basket exactly like this one, any shape will do. Just make sure at least one side is somewhat flat, so you can use that as the back and it will lay flat against the wall or door when you hang it. That random black feather inside, that inspired me because I had these feathers that I had picked up on Amazon and I had forgotten about them, but I think that they would look really nice in a floral arrangement for this basket. I think I'll go ahead and paint the basket a really light gray, kind of like the color of my craft mat, because that will provide a nice contrast, but it'll still be a neutral color palette. This plastic basket really took the spray paint easily, and I think it looks so pretty. It was only one coat that it needed. Let's work on the floral arrangement now. I'm going to use some eucalyptus leaves and white poinsettias along with those feathers. I will try to fan this out a bit so it creates some weight at the top of our piece. I slid the florals into the basket. I'm not using any glue here because I do want the option to change out the florals for different seasons. You could just leave it like this, but let's dress it up a bit more by adding a bow. I'm just looping a piece of wired ribbon and gluing it on the back. Then I cut 2 little notches in the middle. And I wrapped a piece of ribbon around the center there and secured it with glue on the back. I took that same white ribbon and I pleated it by folding it back and forth, and I did use a few dots of hot glue just to make sure the pleats wouldn't come out, but they do hold really well, just, with that wire on the edge. I wanted the top to be tapered a bit to look like it was attached to the bow, so I folded those top corners in and glued them on the back. I have this foam floral ring and a bunch of pom-poms. I'm just laying them out, deciding how I want the colors to flow, and also deciding if I have enough pom-poms. We'll just glue these down starting on the outer edge, then work our way around the top. Then we're going to go to the inside edge. The back of this you don't have to worry about because that will be against the wall. I did need a couple more pom-poms for the center, so let me show you real quick how to make those with these handy pom-pom makers. This is such a full and beautiful wreath just as it is, but I think I want to add a little something else on here. I created this bow and I'm going to attach it with some glue. I was playing around with a few different ideas. I have these trees and I wish they were all white or light gray, so I'm going to try to spray paint them. so this spray painting isn't going so well. There's a ton of paint on the ground here, but not much is sticking to those bottle brush trees. I even tried rolling them around in the paint, and that didn't do much either. I have tried hand painting bottle brush trees in the past, but I know that it flings paint around like crazy, and I didn't want to make even more of a mess. But I'll show you what it looks like with and without these trees on our pom pom wreath, and I'll have to go pick up some pre-painted white trees. The basket we're going to make is similar to these that I saw at Pottery Barn. This set of 3 is $229, so even if you split that cost into 3, each one is still around $75. You will need about 20 yards of cotton roped cord. I bought mine on Amazon, and I'll link that in the description box below. I got 40 yards and it was around $40, but since you only use 20 yards, it would only be $20. This is really sturdy, thick rope, but it's made of cotton, so it's nice and soft. But it's not so soft that it won't hold its shape. You will need a basket or trash can that you like the size of. I have this Magnolia Home blanket basket, and I found it at Target. It's the perfect size for blankets. I just clipped some parchment paper into place, and this will protect any hot glue from getting onto your basket template. Make sure the starting edge is taped to prevent fraying, and then start wrapping the rope into a coil while securing with a line of hot glue. This will be our base of the basket. You may want to have something handy like a popsicle stick so you can wipe up any hot glue if it squeezes out of the side. You want to get the glue as hidden as possible. I found that laying the glue down with it sideways worked best, and then I laid it flat while it dried, and that helped make sure it stayed nice and flat. Bugatti came in to visit. I was a little hesitant to let him near a giant ball of rope, but he didn't seem too interested. Once you get this to the size of the bottom of your basket, you can lay it right on the basket and start wrapping up the edges. At some point, it may be easier to glue if you flip the basket right side up. When you get the basket to the height you want, add a piece of tape tightly around the edge and then trim the rest of the rope off. You can see I had quite a bit of rope left, so I'll be using that on a future project. Now for the handles. You could use this thick Dollar Tree placemat, or even some vinyl cabinet liner could work. Dollar Tree also has faux leather ribbon, so that's another option. I have some leftover faux leather that we'd use to cover the piano bench, so I'll be using that. I trimmed that piece of leather to the width that I wanted the handle. Then I folded the sides so it would have a nice, smooth, seamless look on the handles. I glued this into place and then I put it under something heavy to help it lay nice and flat. Now these are dark brown, but they're almost black, so I used a black Sharpie here to color the edges a bit so that you couldn't see the raw part of the material. I poked a hole into either side of the strap, and then I inserted a 1/2-inch screw post on either side. I poked holes into the side of the basket and screwed in the handles. Here was the cost for all of our supplies. And here's mine next to the Pottery Barn version. I loved the look of this Pottery Barn blanket, but for $300, that is a lot of money for a blanket. Even the smaller one I spotted at Target was almost $200. All we'll be needing for this project is Lion brand Huge yarn. I bought this ginormous yarn for about $100. I've actually seen this done in a faux fur yarn and I kind of wish I'd picked that one up, but I'm happy with this one because it's really chic looking and it'll go well in my Hamptons themed guest bedroom, which happens to also be Pottery Barn inspired. I'll link this exact yarn in the description box along with that faux fur one. Now I am not a pro at crocheting or knitting. I haven't crocheted except maybe a doily when I was 13 years old. So if you're a beginner or think that this looks complicated, don't worry, it's easier than it looks. I watched some tutorials and will link those below to give them credit. I noticed that I did mine a little different than most of the videos I watched, and I think that has to do with me being left-handed. My grandma was amazing at crocheting and she did blankets and dolls and all kinds of things. She tried to teach me when I was a teenager and I remember she would say that I crocheted backwards. So anyway, I just wanted you to keep that in mind when you're watching, especially if you're right-handed. So you'll start by making a knot at the end of the yarn. Loop that through until you're happy with the length. I wanted a short throw for the end of my guest room bed, which is a queen bed. So if you're standing at the base of a bed, this part will be the left edge of the throw. I was a little short on yarn for it to be as long from left to right as I wanted. So I think if I would have done 8 or 9 loops here, it would have been the perfect amount of yarn. The good thing is this yarn can be easily unlooped if you mess up, so you could go back and fix any mistakes. When you have your chain, start looping through each hole of the chain. When you get to the end, make 2 loops since you'll be starting a new row. Go back and forth this way until you get near the end of the yarn. I seemed to get better as I went along, and I was keeping the loops a more consistent size. You kind of get into a rhythm as you go. This blanket is super heavy duty, it weighs a lot, and it'll definitely keep you warm, and you get what you pay for with this huge yarn. Making this blanket has gotten me interested in trying some crocheting and maybe knitting, so I'll have to let you know how that goes when I get back into it. I'm curious if any of you watching crochet or knit, and if so, who did you learn from? This part is called casting off, which just means giving the edge a finished look, and it will keep everything in place. Take the 2 end loops and pull the extra piece of yarn through to create another loop. Repeat all the way across. Then tie a little knot at the end and you can weave any excess yarn through the side. It will hide in there nicely and it'll just make the blanket that much cozier. This was actually really fun to make and it went a lot faster than I thought it would. Since this is homemade, it would make a great gift for someone. We only paid $100 for the yarn, and that is 1/3 of the cost of the Pottery Barn version, and it looks just as good for way less money. I've used these Dollar Tree margarita glasses as bases for stands before. I have one here that I will be spray painting white along with that tart pan. I found this black and white checkered contact paper at Target. You can also find this floral option at Dollar Tree. We're just going to trace the center of that tart pan and trim it out. Then stick it right onto the white side of the tart pan. Using the white side will ensure that no darkness comes through and we have a nice bright background on the white parts of those window panes. After gluing the pan together, grab some wired ribbon and start creating pleats. You can add a tiny dot of glue in the middle of each pleat to make sure it stays together. After we have enough to go around the entire tart pan, we can start to glue it against the inside edge. All that's left to do is glue the top of our cake stand to the margarita glass base. I would recommend some E6000 for this part. I picked up this cute metal tin at Dollar Tree. They've had these for several seasons now. I remember a couple years ago I did a spa basket with one of these baskets. That one got lost in the move from Texas to Colorado, so I did have to go and pick up a new one, and they look identical. Let's give this a coat of white paint and see how it turns out. I love this. That flat white spray paint makes this look so elegant. I had some washi tape in several different black and white patterns. I went with the striped one. This didn't stick as well as I wanted, but I used a little dot of glue at the sides to hold it in place. I think a piece of ribbon hot glued down may have worked better, so I would suggest that if you're going to make this yourself. If you've been watching my videos for a while, you may know I am kind of particular on how much distressing that I do on my pieces. I kind of stress over distressing. I like a gentle touch, so I knew I had to be careful not to remove too much of the paint, but just enough to have the words come through. A fine grit sandpaper is key here. If you're new here, welcome to Artsy Cupcake. My name is Maria, and I share elegant crafts and home DIYs so you can get lots of ideas to find your inner artist. Please consider subscribing if you like home decor inspiration so you can be part of this uplifting and creative community here on Artsy Cupcake. Now we need some little feet for the bottom of the stand. I know these are eyeballs, not feet, but we're gonna fix that with some white spray paint. Ping pong balls would also work for this, but I only had one ping pong ball on hand. You can see the size difference here. I think either size will be great for this project. After placing some beautiful succulent decor in the floral foam, we have a gorgeous piece of decor for only a few dollars. You may recognize the next two items from previous tutorials. I had done a bird themed video, and this was part of a boho looking plant hanging. Then this little pot was part of an Easter tiered tray I had put together. We'll start by removing the twine on this pot. I like the rounded dot stickers that I had put on there, so we will leave those. You can find those dot stickers at Dollar Tree. A coat of white paint, and this looks fresh and new. I gave the bowl a coat of white paint as well, and I will attach these two together with some E6000. I put something heavy on top of this and left them overnight. After that dried, I decided I wanted a touch of black on this piece, so I colored in those rounded dots with a Sharpie. I also sanded the dots on the top to have a bit of the black peeking through. I like things simple and elegant, so I always hesitate to go overboard on the decoration of my DIYs, but I decided to go ahead and add some tassels to the top edge. I was on the fence about these, but let me know in the comments what you think. I found these at Dollar Tree and was obsessed and picked up a whole bunch of them. I think these are supposed to be anemones, and they're so pretty. I love the contrast of that dark center. I popped a bit of floral foam in the bowl and created a dome effect with the anemones. I removed the green leaves on about half of the flowers, so there would be a nice balance of florals to greenery. I found this frame at Dollar Tree and already tore it apart for another project, but I like to upcycle and recycle my supplies, so I always have stuff like this laying around ready to go for a fresh new DIY. I found this gray patterned contact paper at Dollar Tree and traced the glass frame shape onto the contact paper. And then I just stuck it right onto the glass. I wanted to create some sort of three-dimensional wreath for this framed piece. I thought of this floral ball that I had made out of an old book, and I'm going to take a similar approach. But we'll be using two different yellow papers. I started with some yellow cardstock and cut out a few pieces with my paper stamper. I'll link the paper stamper that I have in the description box below. I used a dowel to fold it up into a petal type of shape. Then I thought I would add some texture and a hint of color by using this yellow ruled notepad paper. Don't worry if you get some straight edges when you're cutting out the shapes. They are hidden once you fold everything up. Okay, now I have my pretty white frame and what looks like enough petals to create the wreath. I traced a circle and then I hot glued the petals down one by one, alternating the 2 shades of yellow paper to give it a little bit of dimension. I added a yellow gingham bow as the finishing touch. You may remember these Dollar Tree gift boxes from a previous video. I used the lids of these in a Valentine's Day DIY, and now we're going to use the base of the gift box to make a cheerful floral arrangement. I started by wrapping these boxes with the gray patterned contact paper. I finished the edges with some of that yellow gingham ribbon at the top and the bottom. I secured it in place with a dot of hot glue. I found these chalkboard clothespins at Dollar Tree and removed the clothespin and painted them white. I'm so excited because I just organized my craft closet, so I was able to find everything I needed for these projects so easily. It is amazing how much time you save with an organized space. So I chose the words joy, love, and peace for this DIY. Those words have basically been my mantra lately. Sometimes I go for a jog or a walk, and instead of my mind racing with different things, I just repeat this message to myself over and over again with each step. So these have been my words: joy, love, peace. If you think positive thoughts, you can attract those positive things into your life. So I figure it doesn't hurt to have those words always top of mind. So I'm curious, what positive words do you think are most important to have on repeat in your mind? Comment below and let me know. The last step is to add the flowers. I found these yellow tulips on Amazon. I was specifically looking for yellow tulips, but I do know Dollar Tree always has lots of yellow floral selections. You could probably get around 3 bunches of yellow flowers at Dollar Tree and get just as full of an effect as these tulips. actually a stove cover from Dollar Tree. They come in a pack of 2, and I had made it into a Christmas sign. But we are going to be upcycling this project. I had already pulled the bow off of it, and I'm just going to add a coat of flat white spray paint. I want to create a gray wood look. A sponge brush works really well for this. The trick to getting that faux wood look is to mix up your paint, but don't mix it up perfectly. You want a few streaks of black and white in there to make it look like wood grain texture. Once the paint dried, I taped it off so I could paint the center part yellow. Oh, and I'm using acrylic paint for this part. Then I added a little ribbon and some stick-on letters. I like that I can swap out these letters for something else when I'm ready, since they are sticky, but they're not permanent sticky. Then I created a bow, and we are going to attach that to the top. I found these wooden signs at Target, and I think one of these would make a great base for our starfish. Another option would be to use some Jenga blocks from Dollar Tree and glue those together and then use wood filler and paint it. We'll also need a dowel for the starfish to attach to, and you can find those at Dollar Tree. I took some foil and squished it together, looking at the base to make sure the proportion of the starfish worked with the base that we'll be using. I worked in small sections and built up the thickness of the starfish. We want this foil to be our template for the clay, and it will help us use less clay and also help this be more lightweight instead of having the entire starfish made out of clay. Bonus is that it will dry quicker too. I added a dowel but didn't glue it in yet. This one is just to hold it up, and it might get dirty while we work on the starfish. I will paint another one black and then switch them out at the end. We're using Crayola air dry clay, and I got out what I thought I may need and placed it in a bowl. I also got a bowl filled with a little water. I smoothed the clay over the foil and then used water to remove any imperfections. I took a mechanical pencil for adding the divots because I could have the lead out for thinner holes or push the lead in and use the tip of the pencil for a thicker hole. I alternated as I went along to make it look natural. You want to let this dry for a couple days and then paint it. Let's work on the stand while that dries. I drilled a hole partly into that wooden sign from Target. Now I'm taking this styrofoam ball that I had. I think I had gotten it in a package around Christmas at Dollar Tree. I'm cutting this into a little ring just to make it look more like the base of the starfish. Now we'll mix up some brown and gray paint and do a couple coats on the base. I did some dry brushing with just the gray at the end to make it look more like wood. I gave the starfish a coat of white paint and then attached it to the black dowel with a little glue. Okay, let's take a look at the supplies we used. And here is the comparison of mine to the Kirkland's one. What do you guys think? Next, we'll be making one of these cute sailboats. We'll start with a piece of styrofoam and some clay tools to help us get the shape of the base of the boat. Oh, and if there is a certain home decor store that you like and you want to see me make copies of their items, leave me a comment below. I tend to do Pottery Barn and Kirkland's a lot, but there are also stores like Z Gallery, Ballard Designs, Crate and Barrel. So if you have a favorite, leave it in the comment section below. Styrofoam is so messy, but it's a really easy way to sculpt the shape that you need. I'm taking this Dollar Tree hula skirt and I removed a few pieces to wrap the styrofoam. This will give the boat a wooden texture and look. I cut the ends at different lengths so it wouldn't have such a hard edge. And then I realized I forgot to carve out the top of the sailboat, so I did that real quick. I thought some of these small thread holders would work as little cargo or barrels on the sailboat. I removed the thread from one, but I left the other with the thread to see how they would look different after painting. I used the same paint we had mixed up earlier and painted the whole base of the ship. sails, I measured how big I wanted them and then cut them out of foam core and attached to the dowel. I took that outside and gave it a light coat of white spray paint. When it was dry, I added some blue stripes with a Sharpie paint pen. After pushing the sails into the styrofoam, this cute coastal sailboat is done. This metal fish was so cute. He was only $9, but I'm not crazy about the colors on him. It's a little too much going on, and I think the indentions and patterns would actually be emphasized more if I made this a solid white with some gray distressing maybe, or maybe the gray is peeking out from the debossed areas. So if I want this to be white and gray, then I think the best method would be to first lay down the white paint and then the gray and then sand it. The white going down first sounds counterintuitive, but if the last step is sanding away that coat of gray and we want those gray areas to show up in the debossed areas, then this should work in theory. So let's give it a try. I'm going to use a very light gray because I'm going for a subtle distressing here. So keeping the two colors less contrasty will help give this a subtle distressed look. I'm going for light and bright in the room, and keeping both paint colors relatively light will help accomplish that brightness on this wall decor. I found that holding the sander gave me less control, and it went through to the original fish in a few places. Using the flat piece of sandpaper, I could kind of wrap it around where I was sanding, and I had more control of how hard I was pressing. You can see the few spots where I went through to the original metal. I thought about painting over those, but they're so subtle and it just kind of adds another layer of depth, which I am fine with. Here's a reminder of the before, and here is the after. Large picture frames always are expensive. Finding the right combo of the perfect frame with the perfect artwork inside is always a challenge. So I thought a thrift store would be a great place to pick up some good-sized frames. Having a nice mat on the frame usually makes the frame more expensive too. So I was happy to find this set of 2 frames for only $8 each. They have a lot of detail in the actual frame, and then there is a linen mat built right in, which goes perfectly with our coastal look. I'm going to start by doing the same 2-tone distress technique that we used on the fish. Let's start by taping off the edges before doing the white paint, and then put the gray paint on top. So here is the side-by-side. You can see how flat the solid gray looks, but once I have done a bit of distressing, it really adds a lot of warmth and depth to the frame. I'm going to keep these next to each other as I work so I can make sure I'm distressing the second frame the same amount as the first. For the artwork in the center, I had kind of a crafting fail. Last week I did a science project and made homemade plaster of Paris in my Pottery Barn dupes video. So I felt all confident with my scientist skills, and here I am attempting to make homemade crystals. I thought the crystals would look kind of like coral from a coral reef, and then I would put them in the center of the frames. But my crystals never grew. I've followed the steps of warming the water to almost boiling, and then adding the Epsom salts, and then putting this little pipe cleaner in a cool, dry place overnight, but nothing happened. Let me know in the comment section below if you've successfully made homemade crystals. I don't know what I did wrong. So instead of that idea, we're going to cut some Dollar Tree poster board to fit perfectly inside that linen mat. Then I taped off lines, and we'll use some watered down blue paint. I want this to look like a really natural watercolor that will remind us of the ocean. While those were drying, I printed this artwork onto regular paper and then spray mounted it to the poster board and trimmed them out with scissors. You can use some paint or a marker to color the edges of the shape. After removing the tape, I took these outside and spray mounted them to the frames. I could still see a bit of the edge, so I decided to add some rope. We are really adding those layers onto this piece to make it interesting and nautical. I added foam mounting tape that I found at Dollar Tree, and I put that on the back of the shapes. I did have to cut a few pieces to fit on the tips, but the tape didn't show at all once it was secured to the backing. I repeated this for the other design. Here's a reminder of what these originally looked like. And here is their transformation. I usually throw my paper bags in the recycle bin, but today we'll be making a floral wall hanging out of a paper bag. The first thing we need to do is cut the paper bag into strips. Mine are approximately 2 inches by 8 inches, but depending on the size of your final piece, you may want to go larger or smaller. I did a simple accordion fold using my nails to crease down each fold. Then the last fold wasn't long enough, so I just cut that last little strip right off. I angled one end by making a few slices with my X-Acto knife. And then I repeated that on the second strip of the paper bag. Use glue to attach all the ends together and let that dry. To make the center of this flower, we'll be taking another long strip of the paper bag and cutting about 3/4 of the way through. We'll roll this up and then use a piece of tape to seal it. I used my finger to not have those pieces all pointing upwards. Use a little hot glue to attach the petals of the flower to the center of the flower. This next flower is one I have done on a couple projects because it is so quick and easy to make. I used my scalloped edge paper puncher on that same paper bag. I'll link a paper puncher that's similar below, but if you wanted to just cut out some circles, that would work well too. You can use any pointy item. I'm using a pen here, but sometimes I do use a wooden skewer. Just fold the scalloped circle, or the regular circle, around the point. I use hot glue to assemble them. First I figure out where I want to place it before adding a dot of hot glue. I find these always fall right into place. I kind of tuck them into any empty spots, and once you have a full looking flower shape, then you're done. For the last flower, you will need more of those scalloped circles, or just plain circles if you don't have the paper punch. And then you'll also need something round. I'm using this eyeball I found at Dollar Tree around Halloween, but it is basically a ping pong ball and they printed eyeballs on them. Fold the circles and then attach them to the ball with some hot glue. I had removed this wooden frame from a Dollar Tree canvas, and I'm deciding which paper color to use behind the flowers. If you wanted to continue to use the paper bag, you could paint a piece of the paper bag whatever color you like, or just put a pattern on it, or you could paint a pattern on the paper bag. But I had these neutral shades of cardstock, so I'm just going to use one of those. I'm sanding the frame here and removing any scraggly pieces of canvas from the back. I think I'll give this a coat of white spray paint because that will match nicely with the white center of the one flower. You can attach the piece of cardstock to some foam core if you want to make this really nice and sturdy. My go-to for spray mount is Super 77. Next, I attached the flowers and decided to use some of this ribbon that I had found at Dollar Tree. I added some stickers to write the word home. Then I was back and forth on whether I should add a ribbon here. I always go for simple and elegant and felt that the ribbon might be a little too much, so I just left it off. I like it plain anyway. So the bags came with my groceries and those were free. The other items I already had, but if you're going to pick those up at Dollar Tree, you could get a pack of ping pong balls for $1 and a frame off a canvas painting for $1. So this was a super cheap little project. We are going to upcycle an old craft that I had made. Underneath all that raffia is a floral hoop. You could use an old embroidery hoop or anything with a similar shape to this. Even an old hula hoop would work. I'm using some Dollar Tree floral wire here and twisting it into organic shapes that look like vines. I also added a little thin floral wire around the areas that overlapped just so they would stay in place. We'll cover those up in a minute. I started by trying some E6000 and then some Starbond glue, but I found the best way to attach these wires to the back of this hoop was with some hot glue. I am going to take this outside and give it a couple coats of white spray paint. I added a few Dollar Tree florals. I think the white on white looks so beautiful, but I am going to add a burlap and lace bow just to make this go along with the other neutral colored pieces that we are making today. And here were the prices for everything that we had to get. I had all these, so it was free for me, but just in case you want to recreate this, I just wanted you to have the prices so you could see how much it would cost. I saw these Harney & Sons teas at Target and I thought the packaging was so pretty. They have all different flavors and they're really good, and each can has a different color. So I have more tea than I need right now because I am a sucker for some pretty packaging. I'm a graphic designer, so that's just one of the things I notice when I'm out shopping. These are also a really nice metal can, and I love how sturdy they are, and the inside is a really nice gold. I'm going to give the outside a nice white coat of paint, but I'm going to be spraying this upside down, so hopefully I can keep the inside that pretty gold. I used a piece of that cardstock to line the top of the metal tin. I think a piece of paper bag would work well here too. And then I used these rounded dot stickers from Dollar Tree to add a little bit of texture to this will be vase. These stickers were originally blue, but I painted them white. Then I added some of that ribbon to the bottom. I had a few of these wooden balls sitting around, and I added them to the bottom to act as a stand. Here were the items that I used and how much it would cost if you wanted to recreate it. I got this cookie tin at Christmas time, and well, those cookies didn't last long. Have you guys ever had David's cookies? These were my first time trying them, and they did not disappoint. Anyway, we are just going to use the base of this tin to make a hanging planter. But I want it to look similar to those round hanging planters that are so popular right now. They have the front half opened, but to make this one unique, I think doing the square at an angle would look really good. So let's create the piece for the front out of foam core. I'm just going to be putting some faux florals in there so we don't have to worry about this being waterproof. I traced the edge of the planter and then trimmed it out. Trying to stay inside the line about 1/16 of an inch. When I'm cutting foam core, I like to start the knife outside of the edge. That way I get like a running start, and it helps prevent any rough edges on the foam core. Now, when you get to the curves, I do a different technique, and I stick my knife right in the middle of the curve and kind of saw my way through. Then I go back and smooth out the cut. This gave me a pretty good edge right there. I'm going to use this paint on all my DIYs today so that they all tie together. This is kind of a dark grayish brown. Next, we're going to take some Dollar Tree contact paper to cover up the front panel. Even though that paint turned out great on the metal, I wasn't happy with how it came out, a little bit splotchy on the foam core. I think this contact paper will make the piece look more cheerful anyway. I added a bit of hot glue and secured the panel inside the metal box. Then I added a bit of ribbon to the sides and also created a loop so this can be hung on a wall or door. I used a bit of foam to hold some florals and worked them into the opening until I was happy with the layout. Here is the total cost for our project. Using that old cookie tin really saved some money. Another Christmas present is getting upcycled today. I got a gift in this really sturdy box, and I want to make a floral arrangement with the base of this box. So we're going to cut off the lid with an X-Acto knife. I'm going to give the box a coat of spray paint, and while that's drying, let's work on the lattice. I was super excited to see that Dollar Tree doubled the amount of mini Jenga blocks that they include in the package. Same price, just more blocks. I started by laying these out and figuring out how many would make a nice looking lattice. After I was happy with the layout, I glued them together. This was actually pretty sturdy, even though it looks like it wouldn't be. I think just the hot glue and the wood combo really stuck everything together really well. You'll want to remove any stray glue bits before moving on to the next part, which is using some wood filler where the Jenga blocks connect. Now, this won't be perfectly flat when we're done. We're not going for perfection. I just want to cover any really obvious gaps between those blocks. After that dried, I tidied up with a damp paper towel and then did some sanding. After sanding, I wiped this down and got rid of any dust so that everything would be nice and clean for painting. This took a couple coats of white paint to cover up. Okay, now let's get the box ready to attach the lattice we made. I'm going to trim the box with this white ribbon. I think the white looks so crisp against the grayish brown color. I found these domed stickers at Dollar Tree and spray painted them white. I used a dot of hot glue to attach these evenly spaced out at the bottom of the box. I wanted to add some foam blocks to support the lattice. I used a combo of E6000 and hot glue to secure the lattice in place. I'm going to use some greenery that I got on Amazon and some styrofoam to put these in place. The nice thing about this flower box is you can change out the florals for every season. If you were inspired by these DIYs, then click that subscribe button for more home decor ideas every week. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you have a very creative day.